Good morning, this is Mrs. Cruz, and we are on Wednesday's task for May 13th. So today we will be reading pages 21 to 30 of chapter, we moved on to chapter 6 now, of chapter 6, and we'll be answering text appending question number 3. So looking at text appending question number 3, we're looking at this one. How does Mama explain what happened in Strawberry? Do you agree with her? Why or why not? So right now you should be remembering what does happen in Strawberry. And we know that Cassie has a really terrible time. So you should be wondering, why does she have a terrible time? And we know she has a terrible time because they go to a store in Strawberry, just she and Stacy and TJ. And when she tries to say something because they're not taking their order, she gets treated really terribly. And then she goes outside, and then she bumps into Lily and Jean, and then that becomes an ugly scene too. So we want to see, we know that Cassie's feeling a little hurt towards her grandma because she doesn't feel like her grandma supported her. And we'll see what her mama has to say throughout this. The other question we're looking at is, how would you describe Uncle Hammer and why? So we know that today our goal is to read up to page 30. So let's start by finding page 30, highlighting that. There's 30. Then to see where we left off yesterday, here we are. Yesterday, we started highlighting this orange because we're introduced to Uncle Hammer, and we know that he is related to Cassie through Cassie's dad. So Uncle Hammer's Cassie's dad's brother. Okay, so we already started hearing about this, and where we left off yesterday, we left off with him asking Cassie, how did your trip go? So we're about to see if Cassie tells her uncle about her trip to Strawberry. Okay, Big Mom stiffened, but I was pleased to have this opportunity to air my side of the Strawberry affair. I didn't like it, I said. Them old Simses. Mary, I feel a bit hungry, Big Mom interrupted abruptly. Supper still warm? As Mama stood up, I started again. Them old Simses. Let Cassie get it, Mary, said Big Mom nervously. You must be tired. I looked strangely at Big Mom, then up at Mama. Oh, I don't mind, said Mama, heading for the kitchen. Go ahead, Cassie, and tell your uncle about Strawberry. That old Lily and Jean Sims made me so mad I could just spit. I admit that I bumped into her, but that was 'cause I was thinking about that old Mr. Barnett waited on everybody else in his old store before he waited on us. Jim Lee Barnett? Asked Uncle Hammer, turning toward Big Ma. That old devil still living? Big Mom nodded mutely, and I went on. But I told him he shouldn't have been around waiting on everybody else before he got to us. Cassie, Big Mom exclaimed, hearing this bit of news for the first time. Uncle Hammer laughed. You told him that? Yes, sir, I said softly, wondering why he was laughing. Oh, that's great. Then what happened? Stacy made me leave, and Mr. Barnett told me I couldn't come back no more. And then I bumped into that confounded Lily and Jean, and she tried to make me get off the sidewalk, and then her daddy come along, and he... Big Ma's eyes grew large, and she whispered hoarsely, Cassie, I don't think... And he twisted my arm and knocked me off the sidewalk, I exclaimed, unwilling to muffle what Mr. Sims had done. I glanced triumphantly at Big Ma, but she wasn't looking at me. Her eyes, frightened and nervous, were on Uncle Hammer. I turned and looked at him too. His dark eyes had narrowed to thin, angry slits. He said, He knocked you off the sidewalk, Cassie? A grown man knocked you off the sidewalk. Yes, sir. This Lily and Jean Sims. Her daddy wouldn't be Charlie Sims, would it? Yes, sir. Uncle Hammer grasped my shoulders. What else he do to you? Nothing, I said, frightened by his eyes, excepting he wanted me to apologize to Lily and Jean, because I wouldn't get in the road when she told me to. And you did? Big Ma said I had to. Uncle Hammer released me and sat very still. No one said a word. Then he stood slowly, his eyes icing that cold distance way they could, and he started toward the door, limping slightly on his left leg. Christopher John, Little Man, and I stared after him wonderingly. But Big Ma jumped up from her chair, knocking it over in her haste, and dashed after him. She grabbed his arm. "Let it be, son," she cried. "That child ain't hurt." "Not hurt? You look into her eyes and tell me she ain't hurt." Mama came back from the kitchen with Stacy behind her. "What is it?" she asked, looking from Big Ma to Uncle Hammer. "Charlie Sims knocked Cassie off the sidewalk in Strawberry, and the child just told Hammer," said Big Ma one breath, still holding on to Uncle Hammer's arm. "Oh, Lord," Mama groaned. "Stacy, get Mr. Morrison. Quick, now." As Stacy sped from the room, Mama's eyes darted to the shotgun over the bed, and she edged between it and Uncle Hammer. Uncle Hammer was watching her, and he said quietly, "Don't worry. I ain't gonna use David's gun. I got my own." Suddenly, Mama lunged to the side door, blocking it with her slender body. "Hammer, now you listen to me." But Uncle Hammer, gently but firmly, pushed her to one side, and brushing Big Ma from his arm, opened the door and bounded down the steps into the light rain. Little Man, Christopher John, and I dashed to the door as Big Ma and Mama ran after him. "Get back inside," Mama called over her shoulder, but she was too busy trying to grab Uncle Hammer to see to it that we obeyed, and we did not move. "Hammer, Cassie's all right," she cried. "Don't go making unnecessary trouble." Okay, so let's quickly do a comprehension check. So now we know that Big Ma was trying to stop Cassie from telling Uncle Hammer the story, and by now we know why, right? Why was she trying to stop Cassie? And it's because she knew that Uncle Hammer would. She knew Uncle Hammer would do something, right? And that tells us a lot about him. So let's look for any evidence of what we could highlight orange for Uncle Hammer. So this description kind of shows that it's the icy cold distance, he starts getting that look in his eye, which means that's not a good sign. And we know that Big Ma recognizes it because that's his mom, right? And as soon as she sees that look, she's telling him, let it go, like she's not hurt. And we know he's not able to let it go. Let's see. I'm also going to highlight where it says, okay, so I'm gonna highlight what it says, the fact that he's doesn't care that Big Ma and Mama are trying to stop him, but he starts heading outside towards the rain. Okay, and then Cassie's mom just tells him, "Don't go making unnecessary trouble." So let's go on from there. "Unnecessary trouble? You think my brother died and I got my leg half blown off in their German war to have some redneck knock Cassie around anytime it suits him? If I would have knocked his girl down, you know what would have happened to me? Yeah, you know all right. Right now, I'd be hanging from that oak over yonder. Let go of me, Mary." Mama and Big Ma could not keep him from reaching the car, but just as the Packard roared to life, a huge figure loomed from the darkness and jumped into the other side, and the car zoomed angrily down the drive into the blackness of the Mississippi night. "Where'd he go?" I asked, as Mama slowly climbed the steps. Her face under the glow of the lamp was tired and drained. "He went up to the Simpsons, didn't he? Didn't he, Mama?" "He's not going anywhere," Mama said, stepping aside and waiting until both Big Ma and Stacy were inside. Then she locked the door. "Mr. Morrison will bring him back," said Christopher John confidently, although he looked somewhat bewildered by all that happened. "If he don't," said Little Man ominously, "I bet you Uncle Hammer will teach that old Mr. Sims a thing or two. Round here hitting on Cassie. I hope he knocks his block off," I said. Mama's gaze blazed down upon us. I think little mouths that have much to say must be very tired. But Mama, we ain't go to bed. Mama, it ain't but. Mama's face hardened, and I knew that it would be not in my best interest to go argue further. I turned, and as I did, I was told. I turned and did as I was told. Christopher John and little man did the same. When I got to my door, I asked, "Ain't Stacy coming?" Mama glanced down at Stacy, sitting by the fire. I don't recall his mouth working so hard. Do you? No, I muttered, and went to my room. After a few minutes, Mama came in. Without a word of reprimand, she picked up my clothes from where I had tossed them at the foot of the bed, and absently draping them over the back of my chair, she said, "Stacy tells me you blame Big Ma for what happened today. Is that right?" I thought over her question and answered, "Not for all of it. Just for making me apologize to that old dumb Lillian Jean Sims. She shouldn't have done that, Mama. Papa would have." "I don't want to hear what Papa would have done," Mama ordered, "or what Mr. Morrison wouldn't have done, or Uncle Hammer. You were with Big Ma, and she did what she had to do. And believe me, young lady, she didn't like doing it one more bit than you did." "Well," I muttered, "maybe so, but there's no maybe to it." "Yes, I said softly, deciding that it was better to study the patchwork pattern on the quilt until the anger left Mama's eyes, and I could talk to her again. After a moment, she sat beside me on the bed and raised my chin with the tip of her forefinger. "Big Ma didn't want you to be hurt," she said. "That was the only thing on her mind, making sure Mr. Sims didn't hurt you." "Yes," I murmured, then flared, "But Mama, that Lillian Jean ain't got the brains of a flea. How come I gotta go around calling her Miss, like she grown or something?" Mama's voice grew hard. "Because that's the way of things, Cassie." "That's the way of things?" I asked wearily. "Baby, you had to grow up a little today. I wish, well, no matter what I wish, it happened, and you have to accept the fact that in the world outside this house, things are not always as we would have them to be." "But Mama, it ain't fair. I didn't do nothing to that confounded Lillian Jean. How come Mr. Sims went and pushed me like he did?" Mama's eyes looked deeply into mine, locked them, and she said in a tight, clear voice, "Because he thinks Lillian Jean is better than you, Cassie. And when you—" "That old, scrawny, chicken-legged, snaggle-toothed cross—" "Cassie!" Mama did not raise her hand, but the quiet force of my name silenced me. "Now," she said, holding my hand in hers, "I didn't say that Lillian Jean is better than you. I said Mr. Sims only thinks she is better. Oh, thinks she is. In fact, he thinks she's better than Stacy or Little Man or Christopher John." So now we're looking for evidence to really answer question number 3 with how does Mama explain what happens in Strawberry. So I think that's part of it, right? The fact that she is telling Cassie that Lillian Jean's dad thinks that Lillian Jean's better than she is. So I think that's important. Okay, what else should we highlight? She tells her Big Ma didn't want to hurt you, that she's only thinking about avoiding Mr. Sims's anger. So I think that's important. And then she told her that outside of the house, sometimes things are not the way they want them to be. So I think that part is important too. And I think one other thing that she says that I really like is that she says, "I don't want to hear what your dad would have done or what your uncle would have done." She's like, you're with your grandma, and she did what she thought she had to do. I like that she tells her this. She also tells her she didn't like it either. Like, not like she liked doing this to you. Okay, so it looks like we have some ideas highlighted. So for part 2, we will finish our reading for this day, and we'll answer textbook question number 3.